Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to this month's California Brokers Business Acceleration. Before I introduce our Northern California broker, Jeff Green, allow me to tell you what's new in AJI University. We have revamped our Learn button. As you can see, Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming to this month's California Brokers Business Acceleration. Before I introduce our Northern California Jeff Green, broker, sorry, you guys, allow me to tell you what's new in the AJI University. The Learn button on your dashboard has been revamped, and as you can see, we have put everything right at your fingertips. Let me remind you that we have $20 gift certificates to give away, and they're here waiting for you. So let me know if you are interested in finding out more about them. Also, we here at AJI University are excited to announce our nationwide coaching program rolling out in September. If any of these interest you, please find me here at support@AJI University or AJIcorporate.com. Thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce our broker and our friend, Jeff Green. Jeff, are you there? Save me.
I am here. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning into this webinar. I've been excited about it for several months, thinking about talking about commission cutters and how to avoid them, and actually how to educate them as to how working for full commission is in their best interest. So the reality is that every day commission cutters are taking a bite out of agent paychecks, and you need to ask yourself, are you going to be next, or will you list and sell for full commission? And I want to give a quick disclaimer. You are an independent contractor, and you can negotiate your rate of pay for services as you see fit. And that includes 6% listings, lower listings. We do have a company policy against advertising commission. So if you have any questions about that, speak with your broker. But let me give you a little agenda of what we're going to do today. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring on a guest in just a moment, and I'll let you know when we're ready for her. It's Cynthia Goodwin, and she has used some of the techniques that I have presented to her on how to avoid commission cutting, and actually she had a real life situation that she put it in practice on just a few weeks ago and was very successful at taking a listing for full commission. So we're going to do that. Then I'm going to give a basic tutorial on how to avoid why the whole commission cutting issue, why it happens and what to do about it. And then at the end, I'm going to take the hot seat, and that means anybody can throw an objection at me, and I'm going to see, what answers, you're going to see what answers I provide, and you'll see that I'm completely comfortable with this topic, as you should be. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you will have some comfort in the area of dealing with commission cutting and how to deal with it. So right now, I'd like to introduce Cynthia Goodwin. And Cynthia, Tracy, if you could turn her mic on, I'm just going to ask her a few questions. And Cynthia, are you here with us?
Yes, good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everyone.
Great. So Cynthia she's an agent that does a significant amount of business in our area. She's fairly new to the industry, about 3 years in the industry, but has had a great run of sales, and it's really great to work with, does really a good job, and gives great service to her clients. Recently, she came up against a situation that was really kind of difficult because of people's position on commission. Can you kind of give us a quick description of what you were facing, Cynthia?
Certainly. The first challenge, I think, was I wasn't able to meet with both the sellers and both sellers at the time of the listing. That was very challenging.
Okay. And there were some issues that we were talking about yesterday that are kind of things that would not be fair to your client for you to disclose, that caused it to be a very, very difficult situation. Is that correct?
Yes, what was particularly challenging was there was a sense that every penny was important to them, and time was also a factor. But more importantly, this couple was facing a situation that was extremely difficult. And of course, I'm not able and at liberty to discuss it because it's confidential. However, just safe to say it was multiple roadblocks on this one.
Okay, great. So how did you feel going into this? What was your emotional state, or what kind of apprehensions did you have?
Well, I was concerned because it appeared that the client wanted to discount the commission in order to save money. And the prospective client was interviewing other agents and seemed displeased about the commission. And in addition, he didn't seem to be ready to list yet.
Okay. So you went into this whole thing, and I know when we talked, you were pretty uncomfortable about it, and not even sure you were even going to get the listing. So so tell everybody what happened. What did you do? You went on the listing appointment. You actually got the listing, and you actually got it at a 6% commission. So what did you do, and what did you say, and what was the tipping point in your mind that caused this to be a successful listing presentation?
Well, as I always do, I immediately establish rapport with the client. And in this case, again, I was only able to meet with one of the sellers. And I just listened to his needs and assured him that I was the best possible agent for the task. And then after listening, I just let him know that I'm a high quality agent who completes high quality work because I'm meticulous about everything and I pay attention to detail. I just further explained to him that the 6% commission allows me to spend a great deal of time and that quality time throughout the entire transaction process to assure that it's as smooth and as stress-free as possible for my clients. So then I posed a question that, Jeff, we had discussed this in a previous telephone conversation. So I posed this question to him. I asked him, I said, if he wanted to sell the home at the best price or in the shortest amount of time or both. And he said both. So then I indicated to him a discounted commission rate does not allow for both because that doesn't work together. The higher commission, the more excited agents get about showing the property because this is an agent's livelihood and business. The more agents that show the property, the higher the probability there will be a short turnaround for offers, resulting in an accepted contract. So then I asked him if this was something that he wanted, and of course he replied yes. So then I let him know that I was ready to list the property at 6% commission, and I had the listing agreement completed in hand. I didn't have the listing amount, but I had everything else completed. I explained to him that I front load everything to be as prepared as I can be. Well, as a result, he was very impressed with how I handled the meeting. He called his spouse right then and there to explain, and they both agreed to list that evening at 6% commission. So bottom line, the home was in contract for list price within a week. The 6% commission drew lots of interest. The sellers were happy, the buyers were happy, and everyone wins. Excellent.
Well, Cynthia, I really want to thank you for coming on our program today, and your proof that this is workable and can be done. So we're going to move into our tutorial right now, but before we do, I want to tell you a little story about myself. I As a young man, I lived in Santa Cruz, and there was a time when I had 3 jobs. I had 3 minimum wage jobs, and it made it really difficult. I wanted to find another job that paid better, but I didn't have time. I was always going from one job to the other and never had enough money. And I had friends that would get other jobs. There was a place, a lot of people worked at the Lipton tea factory. There was a factory there, and it's still there. I don't know if it's a factory or whatever, but these guys were going in there and they're making 3 or 4 times the money that I was making. And they weren't burnt out and running around from job to job, and they had time to pursue other interests, surfing, going to the beach or whatever. And here I was stuck with 3 minimum wage jobs to make a living. Not good. So that's a typical situation that a lot of agents face, is they're underpaid and overworked because of the commission issue. But let's go ahead and move into our presentation. And I want to talk first of all about reasons that some agents allow their commission to be cut. Let's go to the next page. Reasons that some agents allow their commissions to be cut. First of all, some are just plain weak negotiators. They don't know how to negotiate for their commission, and what's worse, they don't know how to negotiate for their client, which is not a good situation. And that is, you'll hear later, is an objection handler. If I am unable to stand firm for what I'm worth being paid for, how do you expect me to represent your property and negotiate for top dollar? Another situation is some agents believe the common belief that real estate is not a difficult job. Maybe they've got a few easy transactions under their belt. They didn't have any trouble closing, but they've never faced a really hard deal, and they haven't prepared themselves. They don't have the skill, which is the next point. Some agents trade the lack of training and skills for low wages. It's the same reason that people work in the fast food industry. They oftentimes don't have the skill set for a higher paying job. Some agents have little to offer, and even less incentive to gain knowledge. And really that it kind of compounds itself because they're not gaining knowledge because they're too busy taking low dollar listings and dealing with clients that work those low dollar listings, and they maybe have no marketing plan, no industry insights, no local knowledge, and they're unskilled at the paperwork that's required to complete a transaction. And so because of that, they have little to offer. And some agents have not determined their own value and what they consider themselves to be worth. And it's something that we all need to do. There's a lot of lawyers in town, and I knew a lawyer several years ago that every time I saw him, his clothes were wrinkled. It looked like he slept in his clothes. He had an old beat up car. It looked like he had a tablespoon of dandruff on each shoulder. His glasses were sideways and kind of dirty. And this guy ended up doing low dollar work, even though he had a very significant law degree. And people need to set and determine their value when they start their business practice. As a realtor, you need to determine what your value is, and are you going to be a high value agent, or are you a discounter? Some do not know how to qualify a listing or even to say no to a listing. They're unwilling to do that. So that's some reasons that some agents allow their commission to be cut. Now let's talk about how commission cutting hurts our client. This isn't just all about us, it's about our client too. Let's go to the next slide, please. It changes a skilled profession into an entry-level job. When you're a listing agent, you have a fiduciary duty to your client to sell homes at the highest price possible and to obtain the best terms for your seller. That cannot be done with an entry-level job mindset. It's not stick it on the wall, see if it sells, and if it doesn't, too bad, because I've got 10 other listings that will compensate me. The same thing with the purchase side. Your job is to find the least price for your client and the best terms possible. That requires some skill. Another issue about cutting commission is the quality of work declines. There's an agent in our area who sell almost 200 homes last year, and when you get into escrow with that agent, it's a very difficult scenario because there's not a lot of communication, and oftentimes you're doing their paperwork. It's a difficult situation. The commitment level declines. If your commission is low and you have to have 10 listings to make the money of 3, and you're working yourself to the bone, your commitment level to each individual listing declines, and you're unable to, there's only so many hours in the day. Another thing that, or if you want to grow your business and do 10 listings, there's not enough money to hire a staff to give quality service. So the commitment level declines, which is also an objection handler that we can talk about. Lowering the cooperating broker commission is lowering the interest of selling agents, and that's what Cynthia spoke about. The interest of the selling agents was high on her listings, so she was able to sell it quickly. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to talk about how you hurt yourself by lowering your commission. First of all, you appear desperate. You don't look like you really have anything of value, so you're desperate. You also act out of desperation by taking lower quality listings that more skilled agents decline. You may potentially lock yourself into a commission price level that's hard to break out of. You know, you might lock yourself into being a 1% lister and never be able to break out of it because you now develop your reputation. You lower your professional value in the mind of the seller, which is tragic. So on to the next screen. Very important point is that if you're going to overcome commission cutting, you need to begin with the end in mind. What are your goals? Your goals, I'm going to tell you right now, your goal is not to go out and take as many listings as you can at whatever cost or whatever you can do to get those listings. You need to set your income goal for the year. And I'm talking about a realistic, obtainable goal. If you're a brand new agent, don't sit down and say, I'm going to make $500,000 this year. Are there some agents that have done it? Yeah, there are. It's just a rare situation. Also, there's some agents that have killed themselves, probably literally trying to do it. Set your income goal for the year. Know how many listings and sales you need to accomplish that goal. And then work towards increasing the profitability of your sales and listing activities so that those listings, the time you spend doing them, are going to present to you the highest opportunity for income. Then you need to know what kind of listing you will take and at what price. For me, there's certain listings I just will never take. I'm not going to tell you what they are right now, but there are certain price points and certain areas and certain types of homes that I don't list, and because they don't fit into my business plan. And finally, you need to turn down or refer money and time wasters. Very, very critical. You know, I've said this many times over the years that one bad client will often cost you between 3 and 5 other clients because it's a time waster and a money waster. So before you go on a listing, before you even go out the door and spend time in your car and presenting your offerings, you need to understand how to do a financial qualification of the listing. Is this listing likely to sell? Is it sellable? Is it something that I can sell in a profitable way? Very few agents calculate their return on their investment for time and money, something you should do. Qualify the listing to see if this is a good business relationship. Are the people going to be the type of people that will listen to what you have to say, that will take your consultation, or are they so opinionated that they're driving the show and you're just an appendage to their opinions and their activities? Also, the motivation of the seller. How motivated are they to sell the property? Are they just using you as a test case? Are you the litmus test to see if it's time to sell the house? If that's the case, then you need to probably look at another listing. And also the likelihood of selling it. I've heard agents say, I'll take any listing so my sign's out there. Well, that's kind of crazy. It's not really representing the needs of the client. And if the listing is not likely to sell, you have a fiduciary duty and a responsibility to tell the seller that, hey, this thing's not going to sell at this price. If you don't do that, that's not being ethical and honest. So qualify each listing. And then another thing that you should do is have an excellent and unique marketing plan. And this is not the time to talk about marketing plans, but put some effort into your marketing plan. It is one of the most leveraged things that you can do, is having a good marketing plan, well thought out. The next point is to present the commission in advance by providing a listing agreement in your pre-listing packet. One of the things I say is, I'm going to include the listing agreement in my pre-listing packet. Please read it over and highlight any questions you have, and we can discuss it when I come over. Sometimes the commission isn't even a question. You go into the listing, they kind of know what commissions are, they accept it. But if you tell them in advance, I mean, you can even give them a highlighter pen and say, please highlight everything. You want to expose all their objections and all their questions and be able to answer any question about the listing agreement. The next thing you want to do is set the expectation when you set the appointment. Before we start today, let me set your mind at ease by telling you that one of three things may happen today, and any one of them is fine. You may decide to list your home with me. That's fine. You may decide not to list your home with me, and that's fine too. Or I may decide not to list your home. Now, why would you tell somebody you may decide not to list your home? Well, if you really may not list their home, you should tell them. It's very possible that they don't qualify with some of the qualifiers that I mentioned earlier to be a listing that you should take. So be able to set the expectation so that they know what is going on when you do that. So like I said earlier, remember, one bad client will most likely cost you 3. If you can remember, if this is the only thing you remember today, if you can remember this, you just don't go chasing after every buyer or seller, but do your business plan in such a way that you create enough opportunities that you can be selective on who you work with. And that has to do with prospecting, marketing, and getting yourself out there so you have enough opportunities so that you can say no to the problem clients and yes to those that are going to be workable with you. So let's talk about objections. And then I'm going to open the floor and I'm going to take the hot seat. So welcome seller objections and learn how to answer them. There's an old saying, an objection is merely an unanswered question in the mind of the client. Agents that gloss over objections or give flippant answers or do not explain what's really going on in the process are setting themselves time bombs to go off in the future. The best scenario to have is to have a deep conversation with every client, buyer and seller, before you engage them in a contract, whether it's a listing agreement or a purchase contract, and before you begin performing services for them, so you know what all their objections are. So one of the best closes that I've used is when I go through and answer several questions. Usually after you answer those questions, there's usually a pause, at which point I typically say, is there anything else you're looking for in a real estate agent that we have not talked about yet? Then you shut up and you don't say anything. Give it about 10 seconds. Make the silence a little uncomfortable. If they have nothing else to say and you've answered their questions, then the next question is, why don't we go ahead and sign the listing agreement so we can get started and get your home on the market? So, objection answers. Let's look at some common ones, and then I'm going to throw the floor open. The first one is the value of the agent. Now, when you go on a listing appointment, it's your job to describe and explain what you're going to do. You're going to talk about yourself. And this is, I don't want to go too deep into the listing appointment because we've got other training on it. You're going to talk about yourself. You're going to talk about your experience. You're going to talk about the market. You're going to have some easily understandable documentation of what's going on in the neighborhood. And then when you describe that, you describe your policy for answering calls and text messages and availability, and they start sounding good, and you can simply ask the closing question, what kind of agent do you want representing you? I'm a very active agent. I do these things. Are you looking for this kind of agent, or are you looking for somebody more passive? Well, they're obviously going to say they're looking for somebody like you if you present it well. Next issue is the ability to obtain top dollar. What happens is a lot of people confuse the cost of the listing versus, or the price of the listing versus the cost of the listing. The price is the issue of commissions. The cost is what are they going to net at the end? The ability to obtain top dollar is your job. And you need to be able to explain to your client that it's in my best interest to obtain top dollar for your listing. And as Cynthia did so well, using the commission and the cooperating broker commission as an example is absolutely critical. A negotiation is another point. Let's go to the next screen. And I mentioned this earlier, that if somebody is wanting to chisel down your commission down to the bottom, are we missing the next screen? It looks like we are. Okay, so just
Sorry.
I'll get this to you verbally. Okay, negotiation. So when they start arguing with you about your commission or discussing it with you, and you explain your points, you say, well, look, you know, the more money we put out there for the other broker, the better. The stronger I am, and this is a test. You say, you know, my ability to negotiate with you right now is a test for you to assess how I'm going to negotiate for you when we get offers on your property. If I'm not strong enough to stand up to you in a commission negotiation, how strong will I be in the negotiation of the value of your home? And you simply tell them there's two types of agents. There's those that are strong negotiators that will stand up even to you as a seller, and there's weak negotiators. I'm a strong negotiator. What kind of agent are you looking for? Do you want to save money on commission? Or another question is, do you want to save money on commission or lose it during the deal? And there's also the other comparison of other agents. They do it, why won't you? Well, that's part of giving you answers, and there's a number of objection handlers, and there's a number of objections. But I'm gonna open the floor right now. We have just a few minutes before we close today, and I want to see if there's anybody out there in webinar land that has an objection they want to throw at me, and specifically on commission and cutting commission, or if we run out of those and we have a few minutes, I'll take some other ones as well. So what you want to do is type that in, and our charming host, Tracy, will read those off, and I'll answer them.
You know, I have one right off the bat too. Thinking about some of my listing appointments I've gone on, Jeff, and how would you handle it if somebody tells you that they have a friend or a family member that also sells real estate that's willing to do it for cheaper?
Well, you know, sometimes, I mean, that's kind of rare that they're actually having you over. But what I would do is I would bring up the point, well, you know, I really appreciate you bringing that up. And the fact that I'm here today is proof positive that you're looking for a second opinion, isn't it? And they're going to say yes. Yeah. And you say, well, you know, sometimes family members can sell a property for less. They can, or you want to say they can list the property for less. You don't say sell. Sometimes a family member can list the property for less. What I'm here to talk to you about is how I can sell the property for more. And selling the property for more pretty much requires a commission that's going to attract other people, and also it's a commission that's going to attract me to do business with you. And you know, you can be straight up and tell people that they need to understand that the commission that they're offering isn't just to attract buyers, but they need to decide, and you need to kind of level the argument a little bit here. They need to decide, are they able to attract me because I'm good at what I do? Are you able to attract me to be your listing agent and sell your home for top dollar? Because this is what I do. And particularly if you have any records of breaking prices in neighborhoods, which I do, you can show that to them and remind them again, there's a difference between the price of the listing and the cost of the listing. The cost includes your profitability. So they're already beginning from a weak perspective if they bring that up. The fact that they've had you over and they have a family member means that they've got, you know, they've got doubts as to whether that family member can really do what they need to do.
Absolutely.
And I would just tell them, look, you know, if you don't care about your profit on the property, if the profit on your property is more important to you than then you know, if doing a favor for your family member is more important to you than your profit on the property, then you should go ahead and list with your family member. So what is more important to you, doing a favor or doing blah blah blah, you know, making the most money? If you get to the point where you're stuck and you can't really move them off that, and they say, well, boy, I'm kind of in a quandary here. I really want to use you, but I feel obligated to my family member. Then you can say, well, look, why don't we make a win-win out of this? And I'd only use this at the end. Why don't we make a win-win out of this? Why don't you list it with me, and then I'll pay them a referral. I'll give them a 25% referral. And you know what's going to happen is they're going to get to make money for nothing. And what you might want to do is, before you send the referral agreement, if they're not doing a lot of business, you might want to call them up and ask them if they want to join Allison James Estates and Homes, so they can get 100% of that referral and not give 40% of it to their broker. That's another opportunity for you, but that's a whole different subject.
That's
okay.
A great answer. I have two more questions here too. I don't know if you can see them. Actually,
I can't, but I'd like to know who's asking them so I can address the person themselves.
You got it. The asker is Stephen Batiste, and he's asking you, what about buyers trying to cut your commission because they can use Redfin or get part of their commission back?
I love that question, and I was going to address it in my presentation, and I moved too fast. I had a situation recently where I put a home in escrow. It was $650,000, somewhere around there. The buyer came to me. He came over the internet, and he found me, and I don't think he knew about Redfin, but he wanted half of my commission. And I said, well, let me tell you why. Oh, first of all, why do you want half of my commission? He says, well, your commission is what drives up the sale price of the house. I said, well, that may be true, it may not. But let me tell you what you've done. And I just put it back on him. Let me tell you what you've done today. And this was after we were in contract. So I said, this is what you've done today. And I'll talk about what to do before you get into contract. This is what you've done today. You've come to me. You found me on the internet. I advertised to find you. That cost me about 25% of my commission, and I've got numbers to show that. I've got an acquisition cost for leads that's somewhere around 24%. So I spent money to meet you. Because I spend money to meet my clients, I do this because I'm offering high value. So you found me on the internet. Then you met with me and we saw several houses. I wrote several offers for you. They failed. And I advised you on a negotiation strategy, which I did, which included a confidentiality statement. I advised you on a negotiation strategy that caused you to win this offer over 4 other offers. I said, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for my services. You're paying for the multiple listing service. You're paying for my ability to negotiate because I've got experience. And you're paying for the end result, which we accomplished. Now, what do you think would have happened if you decided I'm not going to use this system and I'm going to go on Craigslist and find a house and just do it myself? I mean, how would that have worked for you? Probably not very well. I said, and then what if you found an agent who didn't value their services enough to receive their full commission? They were so desperate for a paycheck that they just gave all their money away. Would you pick an agent like that? Do you think they could negotiate for you and do the work that you need them to do? And this is what I would tell a buyer if they say, well, I want to have part of your commission. Well, I tell them the answer is no. Can I tell you why it's not in your best interest? And I shut up and don't say anything. Count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. So, well, I'll just go ahead and share with you if they don't say anything. This is why it's not in your best interest. When you hire me, you're not just hiring somebody to run around and show you properties, but you're hiring a real estate practice. I'm offering you a real estate practice. Just like when you hire the dentist or you hire the doctor to do surgery on you. And I tell them a story. I used to work for a dentist who was really cheap. And every time I had an issue other than a filling or a cleaning, he had to outsource me to somebody else. and he had old equipment, uncomfortable chairs, and I thought, wow, I'm getting a really good deal on my bills, but I'm getting less than adequate service. I changed dentists, and now I have a dentist. He has got everything. He's got all the equipment. He doesn't hurt me when he works on my mouth. He's great, and he's got a great staff. So I hired a dental practice. I didn't just hire a dentist. When you're hiring me, you're hiring a real estate practice. You're hiring a brokerage. You're hiring an organization that provides first-rate training. And I'm going to do everything I can in my power to not only serve you well, but look for the highest possible ways to reduce the amount of money that you pay on your purchase. Is that something you're looking for? Or are you looking for somebody that will just give up some money and do whatever will get them to the quickest commission possible? And I just let them go from there. And usually that wins them over. Next question.
Next question. We have Sue McKinley asking about certain situations where people automatically expect you to kick back 1% of your commission to them, the buyers, as buyers. How do you overcome this?
Well, the first thing is that there's some people that's their standard MO. It's kind of like the previous answer is kind of applicable to that. You got to make a decision on who you're going to work with. But yeah, I explained to them why the commission, why I earn my commission and what I do. Just kind of the answer to the previous question is probably the answer to that.
I agree.
If they automatically expect you to give them money, you have to show them why that money is rightfully yours and not theirs. And I know there's a big trend of people trying to do that. You just have to decide whether you're going to do it or not. I personally don't do it, and I've been able to deflect it by giving the answer that I gave previously and telling them that, yeah, if you do that with an agent and an agent is willing to do that, it's likely that they're desperate, and a desperate agent who doesn't have enough money coming into their real estate practice. This is another point that's very important to make. The money that I make on real estate transactions is what makes me a stronger agent. It allows me to have the best training, the best equipment, and have the time to work with you instead of working with 10 or 15 buyers at the same time because I'm getting paid less. The higher commission that I make, which is paid to me by the seller and not you, enables me to perform at a higher level. The other thing you can say is that my commission is between me and the seller and the other broker, so it's really not between us. If you want to help an agent or a buyer, and it's my preference, if I was going to help somebody, I might give them a credit towards some things that will help them in their sale or their purchase, like maybe a credit towards home warranty or something like that as a gift. But the fact just to lay down for them and say I'm going to give up my money from day one, I don't think is advisable.
Isn't that funny that we're in the only industry that people ask us about our paychecks and negotiate our paychecks?
It's because people have said yes. If you go to the dentist and you go to the front desk after they're done giving you a root canal and they tell you it's $650 above what your insurance will pay or whatever, say, well, I'm going to give you a check for $650. Can you write me a check back for $200?
Yeah.
How would that work? That doesn't happen there. So what we've done is we've lowered our professional standards so that people think that they can take what they want from us, and we're responsible for that. We have created that problem.
Yes, I agree. Okay, let's get on to it. We have more questions rolling in right now. We have one from Tom Bullock, our San Diego broker, saying, I understand the value you, Jeff, bring to the table through your presentation. My question is, what is your marketing plan and how does that set you apart?
Well, Tom Bullock, I need to tell you that your property and your type of person, I just don't list houses for you. I'm sorry. What's the next question? No, I'm kidding. Well, that the reason that question is there is because Tom didn't see my process. So whenever I do a listing, I already have given them my presentation way before we talk about commission. So it comes in my pre-listing packet, which is I use a one-page listing. I use a one-page marketing plan. It's on one sheet of paper, and it lists the things that I'll do. So my marketing, what is your marketing plan? We would have already discussed it at this point, and those things will be on there to set me apart. And this question wouldn't come up in the way that I do it. And I recommend for every one of you that you have your marketing, you have explained everything in advance, so that all you're doing is reviewing your marketing plan and talking about what kind of agent you're going to be in the sales transaction.
Very smart. Very smart. Okay, next question. Client says, I have an agent that I always use. There are things I don't like that he does, but my husband, who's a contractor, wants to keep using him because that agent always does it for 5%. How would you handle this? How would you handle this? Sorry.
Okay. Well, it's like that other question with the family member. Well, I can appreciate that you have somebody that'll do it for 5%, yet there seems to be a reason, there's a reason somewhere along the process that you're considering a second opinion, isn't there?
Like
Stop,
that.
Count to 5, 1001. There's a reason. And that reason is it possible that that reason has to do with the performance of this other agent? You've used them multiple times at 5%, but now that you're interviewing me, the fact that if we both did it at 5% and you weren't happy with them, you'd automatically select me. So obviously there's something better about what I do that's gotten your attention. And I'd like to talk about that. That's when you zero in on the price of the listing versus the cost of the listing. This additional 1 point that you're going to pay, and you can reduce it to ridiculousness by showing them that 1% versus what you can do to market at a higher value and higher result, that's only 1% difference. So it's not 6% difference, it's 1% difference. So the other thing you can say is, obviously you've tried this many times. Obviously it seems like you're a little uncomfortable with what you've done in the past, which, you have the opportunity to continue to repeat that uncomfortable scenario, or you can try something new. And I'm recommending that you do that because of what I've told you thus far, and you review everything, that I think that my strategy would be in your best interest. So
okay, definitely making up that 1% and the price that you're going to get for that house. And so hopefully Christine Rourke, hopefully that answered your question. Next, we have another question from Anastasia Broussard. How would you handle a seller who is considering listing with Home Bay? Never heard of that. This is the agency that charges $2,000. I'm going to approach it with what value I bring to the table, experience, strong negotiating skills, and show proof how much more my listings fetch in areas. What else would you do? Tell agents that, okay, so they continue. Okay, so it says, tell agents that there are free downloadable objection handlers at Mike Ferry. Oh, okay, so she's just also giving
okay.
us some
yeah, the Mike Ferry objection handlers are excellent. But yeah, I mean, there's with people that will, that's Home Bay is kind of like a FISBO kind of, do your own thing. I don't know all the details on it, but they have a really low fee and they get you on the MLS and you do all that. And
so like an a la carte service then, Jeff?
I don't know all the details of it, but it's a discount. Let's just say it's a discounter.
Okay.
And they deep discount.
Perfect.
So your answer to that is, again, cost versus price. The price of the listing versus the cost of what can be done. And the further you move into automation, the further you move away from being unique and being a specialist. So and the more you move towards a cookie cutter approach to selling houses. And when you do that, that is that's what a factory is. So a factory stamps out widgets, does a really good job of making the same product over and over again. But if you want something that's really good and something that works and something that's unique to you, you don't get it from a factory, you get it from a craftsman.
Exactly.
So this is the difference between what I do and what the factory approach is. Are you looking for a factory approach, or are you looking for somebody to give you a custom real estate solution that includes two very valuable things? One, the continual and constant objective of selling your house at the highest possible price, and the consistent and powerful objective of providing you personalized service that relates directly to you and your property, not based on a simple templated plan. And so you just have to basically pick it apart. You know, why is this template, you know, not going to work? And have you ever bought a hat or a pair of shoes where one size fits all? How did that work for you?
Exactly. Okay, let's keep moving on. We have more rolling in. You're very popular today, Jeff. Okay, so we have Sue McKinley and Renee are asking you, Renee Sosa, to share your marketing plan. Is there some place that they could reach you then and kind of show them what you do?
Yeah, anybody has any questions can get a hold of me. And
they can do that on Allison James, on our university under the
Jay Green at Allison James at aj@corporate.com.
There you go. Okay, and then we have another person. We have, it's actually Sue McKinley again. How do you close the listing when sellers want to interview more after you?
Well, that's the close, the really deadly close that I really like to use is there anything else you're looking for in a real estate agent that we haven't spoken about yet? And then you stop and you don't say anything. You know, is there anything? And if they don't answer that question, see, the reason they're looking for other people is you haven't answered all their objections, or they feel guilty because they've made an appointment with somebody else and they don't want to cancel it. It's only one of those two things. If they feel guilty and they say that, you know, I don't have any other questions for you. And I said, well, then what I would say is, well, it looks like you're ready to list the home, and you know, your time's valuable. Why fill your day with a bunch of other appointments? I'll tell you what I'll do for you. Give me the list of all the people that you have appointments with, and I'll call them and tell them that I've listed the home, and I'll cancel the appointments for you, and you won't have to do that. And that'll put their mind at ease. But if they still want to see the other people, you haven't answered all their questions. Or they don't like you, which is maybe possible. I don't think anybody would not like any of these two that asked the question, but you know, they may not like you. It may be a personality issue, in which case you don't want the listing anyway.
Exactly. Okay, let's carry on. We have three more. Renee Sosa again says, I are presented for a listing against another agent that is not local, but the reason the seller said they are considering her first is because she donates a portion of her commission to a horse rescue. I know this makes no sense, but it is important to them. What would you advise to offer to match that, or how would you handle this?
Well, I would tell them this. You know, I am so excited to hear about anybody that's involved in charitable activities. I think it's fantastic. But I want to tell you, I'm running a business here, and I keep my charitable activities separate from my business activities. However, here's what I want to do for you. I want to list your home, and I want to sell it for top dollar so that you have the opportunity to decide what kind of money you want to put into charity. You can then make a charitable contribution, and then you get the tax benefit for it. So let's go ahead and list the property. You've seen my plan. I'm local because of that. You know, I'm going to be able to provide better service. It's just a matter of logistics. And I'm likely to get much higher dollar for your property because I'm local, I'm networked here locally, I know people, and then you can make the charitable contribution yourself out of the proceeds of your sale, and that'll give you a tax write-off at the end of the year. Won't that be great?
Good answer. Good answer. Now we
Because
have
they're not going to get that. They're not going to get that charitable write-off when the other agent,
write it off.
Yeah, they're
Theirs.
yeah, it's their write-off.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So then, okay, then I have Joyce Bennon asking, many sellers feel that a higher priced home means agents don't need 3%. A $700,000 home at 3% would $21,000. How do you handle that?
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting question because there's this arbitrary line in the sand that goes up and down based on what the sale value is worth, what the commission value is worth. And I would tell them that, this is an expensive industry. And the focus, you got to get them off the focus of what they're paying you and what your job is. Your job is to sell their home at top dollar. And so because this is how our industry works, and this is how the pricing works, and by the way, we have a lot of costs as agents that enable us to perform at a high level, that the cost factor of selling a home, it's actually fair because it's based on a percentage. And guess what? That percentage, although it's higher on a higher priced home, I would point out to them, you've gained a lot of money, you've gained a lot of equity over the last few years, so that's a less of a hit than if you would have just put it on the market earlier. So you have some compensation for it. And again, review your commitment to get them top dollar and also to attract an agent that will sell it for top dollar. Now, it's very important to remind them that the purpose of commission is twofold. Is to attract a selling agent and to attract a listing agent, the best listing agent possible. And you just tell them top listing. We should not be ashamed to say that top listing agents who are capable of selling luxury properties or high-priced properties are very rare, and they command they command a higher income because they produce a higher income for the seller. That's the kind of dialogue you need to have with
Absolutely.
them.
And I know sometimes with those higher price homes, your brochures are going to be more expensive. Your marketing is going to be more expensive. So there's definitely value in that too. So thank you for that. We have two more. And Eddie Sanchez is saying, when writing an offer on a property that has a 2% or 2.5% commission to the buyer's agent, would you advise asking or requesting a 3% commission from the seller? If so, how would you approach this?
That question, that's a tough one, but I'm going to tell you right now that it's a seller's market and multiple offers. You're probably not going to get that. You're probably not going to win that one. I was in contract recently for 2% on a $173,000 purchase. It's really normally out of my price bracket, but I worked it anyway. And I think it's absurd. Well, it turns out the deal fell apart because the seller, even at that level, didn't have enough net to close the deal. And it was the listing agent didn't even vet the listing before she took her listing for $29.95 on her side. So some of that, you're going to be wasting your time. You're going to have to decide. You can, as an independent contractor, you can ask for that. You can do a cooperating broker compensation agreement. The likelihood of you getting another broker to agree to that, it's pretty low because they're probably getting a low commission on their end. They have nothing more to split with you. Then they have to go back to the seller and ask for more money, and that's probably a losing battle, and your client's probably not going to get the house. So at that point, working a buyer, you got to put your client's needs ahead of yours. That's what's being a fiduciary. It's just an unfortunate situation. It's not that common, but it is unfortunate. And you can try to negotiate it. One thing I do want to point out, very, very important, You may not, per the Realtor Code of Ethics, negotiate commission in the purchase contract. So just keep that in mind. All right, what do we have next?
Okay, next. This is the last one, and we have George Kazanovsky asking any recommendations to new agents on how to win a client. Thanks.
Oh, that's a great question. So, yeah, there's several. The first one is, and just type in if you're talking about listing or purchase side or both, and I'll just wait a second and see what his response is. Just type that in if you could, George.
Buyer, he says.
Buyer, okay. Well, I'll probably talk about listing too. So you're working with buyers, okay? So this is a common question. You're new, you don't have any experience and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing that I always tell a new agent is lean on your broker. We're here. We have great brokers at Allison James. We're highly engaged in what we do. We don't have the same job description of a typical office manager, which is when I was an office manager, I had to make sure the alarm system was covered and deal with the janitor and deal with people arguing about who's going to get the cube next to the window and all that kind of nonsense. We don't have that. So we're strictly focused on transaction guidance for our agents and compliance. So what I would say is, look, I'm on a team. It includes a broker who has, whatever broker you have, has X amount of years experience, and we work together. And this is what I tell my new agents. If you're on an appointment and you have a nervous client, make sure you tell me when the appointment is. Feel free to pick up the phone and call me right in the middle of the appointment and say, hey, I'm with client Bob, and he's a buyer, and he wants to find out what kind of support I have that will help me as a new agent. And then you can just, you can effuse for several minutes about what you do as a broker, and that's the first thing. The second thing you want to tell them is say, hey, I'm a fresh agent, I'm new, I've just completed all the training that it requires to get a real estate license, so all this information is fresh in my head. I know all the, I've got just a current, updated set of information in my head. I'm going to use that to your advantage. The next thing is, let's talk about my schedule. Because I'm new, I don't have a lot of business running right now. And that means two things for you as the buyer. Number one, I cannot afford to fail. It's not as though I have 10 or 12 clients and I've got several escrow checks rolling in. I need to be successful, so I'm going to do what it takes to be successful. The second benefit to you is I have time. You're going to find out I've got a lot of time to work for you, and I'm going to be able to make this happen for you. So those are some things. Also, you want to let them know that the other thing with regards to your reputation is I don't have the liberty of failing you. If I fail you, I don't have a sales history to look back on in the future. So I'm motivated, I'm freshly trained, I have complete access to my broker, and I even tell my agents if you need to get the client on the phone with me, I'm happy to work with them to support you at the highest level possible so that you feel and they feel that they have the combination of youth and energy plus experience and knowledge, and it's a win-win situation. We're going to be a winning team for you.
That's a great answer. And we have the best brokers here at Allison James too, so I appreciate that.
Could you say that again? I liked hearing that. I think Tom does too, and the rest of the brokers.
I think we have the best, and I've been doing this for 17 years, and I know we have the best brokers. Yay, you guys. So with that being said, I want to thank our broker, Jeff Green from Northern California, for giving us an awesome, amazing PowerPoint. And yeah, everybody's saying thanks, Jeff. AJ Brokers are the best. Thank you, Jeff. Chris Johnson, I know him. Okay,
well,
yeah.
Let me do a quick wrap here.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you guys, you are worth your pay. You are worth it. You can do this. You can develop a business plan that has two important components. Number one, you have pricing that matches your business objectives. And number two, you have the communication skills to communicate the value that you offer. You put those two things together, you're going to work less and make more and make your clients more successful and provide a fiduciary level of care that's second to none. And I and the rest of our brokers support you wholeheartedly in this, and thank you for your kind attention during this webinar.
It was amazing. So thank you very much. And if any of you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find either the support group or our brokers on AJI University under our on your dashboard. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to say thank you for this month's acceleration, and see you guys next month. Thank you so much, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.